Rylan Voss wiped grease from his hands and squinted at the hovercar before him. Sparks flew from the engine like angry fireflies, bouncing off the rusted metal walls of the scrapyard. The wind carried the smell of burnt circuits and scorched oil. He barely noticed the storm clouds rolling across the colony's dim sky. Every instinct screamed that today would not be quiet. A sudden crash made him spin. A stack of metal crates toppled nearby, sending sparks and shards clattering across the floor. His heart raced as he ducked just in time. A tiny movement caught his eye, a faint glow flickering under a fallen panel. Curiosity mixed with caution. He crept closer. A soft, pitiful chirp pierced the air. Rylan froze. The sound was almost human in its pleading tone, but shrill and urgent. Beneath the panel, a small shape wriggled. Scales shimmered faintly, burnt and ragged, but the glow made it look alive with some inner fire. A dragon hatchling. Rylan had never seen one this close, especially not here, on the edge of a forgotten colony where survival was already a gamble. The hatchling's wings were crumpled, barely able to twitch. Its eyes, wide and round, fixed on him, and it let out a tiny, hungry squeak. Rylan felt a pull in his chest, a tug of responsibility that was sudden and overwhelming. "Hey, it's okay," he muttered, stepping forward carefully, hand outstretched. Sparks from the damaged engine crackled dangerously close. Before he could reach it, a sharp whir of metal overhead froze him. A security drone swooped down, sensors locking onto the glowing creature. Its metallic claws clicked like knives. "Unauthorized alien life detected," a robotic voice droned. The hatchling chirped again, panicked, trying to crawl towards safety. Rylan's mind raced. He couldn't let this happen. Not here. Not now. He grabbed a loose metal rod and jammed it into the drone's circuitry. Sparks flew, and the machine wobbled before crashing into a stack of crates. The hatchling's tiny body trembled with relief, and it let out a soft chirp of gratitude. Rylan's heart thumped. He had saved it, but the danger wasn't over. Every second counted. Rylan lifted the hatchling gently, feeling its frail weight in his arms. Its tiny claws scrabbled at his shirt, trying to hold on. "You're safe, for now," he whispered. A small, almost imperceptible smile crossed his face. The first small victory of the day, but he knew better than to relax. The colony's scanners and authorities were relentless, and one glowing dragon hatchling could attract more than curiosity. He ducked behind a stack of containers, scanning the scrapyard. Broken hovercars, piles of discarded circuits, and the occasional drone debris littered the ground. Sparks from damaged engines lit patches of shadow, creating pockets of danger in every corner. The hatchling squeaked again, its glowing scales pulsing like a heartbeat. Rylan could see it was starving, ribs faintly showing, skin burnt in places. Hunger and fear combined, making it twitch violently in his hands. Rylan's instincts kicked in. He ripped open his pack and pulled out a packet of nutrient paste, scraps he'd been saving for himself. The hatchling sniffed it, hesitant at first, then greedily lapped at the tiny glob. Rylan's hand trembled slightly as he watched it eat. A small, fragile bond was forming in these few stolen moments. The hatchling's wings twitched slightly as if testing strength it barely had. Then the ground vibrated beneath him. A deep, rhythmic thud echoed across the scrapyard. Something heavy moved in the shadows and the hatchling froze, ears twitching. Rylan's stomach dropped. He scanned the yard and caught a glimpse of massive claw marks across the metal floor, leading to a shadow larger than anything he had expected. The hatchling chirped, its glow flaring brightly as if sensing the threat. Rylan's pulse quickened. He knew whatever was coming would not be human, and it was fast. The hatchling's fragile body seemed insignificant against the looming danger, but Rylan refused to let fear take over. He set the hatchling down, quickly crafting a barrier from scrap metal and sparking wires. It might buy them a few precious seconds. A shadow loomed closer, jagged and immense, blocking the dim light. Sparks from broken engines flickered across sharp scales. Rylan's eyes widened. His hands clenched around a loose wrench. Whatever was coming, it was alive and it was coming for the hatchling. And then it stepped into the light. Not an enemy. Not entirely. But its glowing eyes locked onto the hatchling with a strange intensity that made Rylan's skin crawl. He froze. The tiny dragon chirped, responding to it with a flicker of recognition, or fear. Rylan's mind raced. Who or what was this? And would it be friend or foe? Before he could react further, a sudden metallic shriek pierced the air. Another drone, larger and faster than the first, dove straight for them. Rylan yanked the hatchling behind a crate, sparks flying around them as the drone crashed nearby. His heart pounded, but he couldn't look away from the glowing eyes watching him both from the hatchling and the shadow beyond. This was only the beginning. Something had been awakened in the scrapyard that day, and Rylan Voss knew, whatever happened next, nothing would ever be the same. Rylan pressed his back against the cold metal of the crate, clutching the hatchling tightly. Its glow pulsed faintly, almost in sync with his own racing heartbeat. The scrapyard was silent for a moment, but the silence was heavier than any noise, a warning that danger wasn't gone, only paused. He could hear the faint hum of distant drones, scanning, searching, hunting. He whispered to the hatchling, "We need to move, fast." The tiny creature chirped softly, almost like it understood. Its fragile wings twitched weakly, and Rylan noticed the burns on its scales were worse than he thought. Every movement made it wince. He carefully wrapped it in a thick piece of cloth he tore from his jacket, shielding it from sparks and debris. The scrapyard wasn't just messy, it was alive with hazards. Hovercars with fractured engines groaned, sparks raining down like molten rain. Rusted pipes hung precariously from above. One wrong step, one careless move, and the whole stack could fall, crushing both of them. Rylan scanned quickly, calculating a path to his workshop, where he could hide the hatchling and treat its injuries. As he stepped cautiously, a shrill mechanical shriek echoed through the yard. A patrol drone rounded a corner, sensors locking onto the faint glow of the dragon. Rylan froze, then ducked behind a twisted piece of metal, trying not to breathe too loudly. The drone's lights swept over him and the hatchling, stopping for just a second too long. Rylan's mind raced, there was no way he could outrun it. He grabbed a piece of sparking cable from the ground. In one quick motion he looped it across a pile of scrap, rigging a short-circuit trap. Sparks erupted, blinding the drone's sensors just enough to throw it off its path. The drone whirred in confusion and zipped away, leaving Rylan and the hatchling unharmed, for now. He exhaled sharply, heart still pounding. Small victories like this kept him moving, kept hope alive. Finally he reached the edge of his workshop. The metal door groaned as he pushed it open, revealing a cluttered space filled with broken machines, spare parts, and the faint scent of oil. It wasn't much, but it was safe for now. He set the hatchling down on a worn mat in the corner. It immediately sniffed the air, twitching its glowing wings, and looked at him with wide, trusting eyes. Rylan's hands were shaking as he pulled out a packet of nutrient gel. "Eat," he urged gently. The hatchling hesitated, then greedily licked at it. Its tiny body shivered, and for a moment Rylan thought it might break. But it didn't. It ate every bit. Relief washed over him. The first small payoff. It was alive and it trusted him. He studied the creature carefully. The glow from its scales wasn't constant, it flickered, almost like a heartbeat. He reached out, lightly brushing a hand over its tiny head. The hatchling chirped softly, leaning into his touch. Rylan felt a strange warmth in his chest. This wasn't just a creature, it was someone who depended on him, and that responsibility weighed heavier than any danger outside the walls of his workshop. The hum of distant machinery reminded him that the colony wouldn't give up. Authorities and drones would keep searching. The hatchling's glow made it easy to track, and someone, or something, was bound to come after it. He needed a plan. Rylan scavenged scraps and old parts, building a makeshift incubator. He rigged a weak heat source, a tiny nutrient feeder, and even a small shield of metal to hide the hatchling's glow. It wasn't perfect, but it would buy him some time. The hatchling chirped again, curiosity in its wide eyes. Rylan smiled faintly. "You're going to have to be patient, little one. We're not out of danger yet." Suddenly, the floor vibrated under his feet. The hatchling froze, its glow intensifying like a warning. Rylan's stomach sank. Something heavy moved outside. Footsteps, or something heavier. He peeked through a crack in the workshop door and caught sight of enormous claw marks across the metal floor, deeper than any human could make. The hatchling whimpered, wings twitching in fear. Rylan's mind raced. Whatever was out there, it wasn't human. He had no weapons capable of stopping it. But he had brains, tools, and the ability to think faster than anyone, or anything, hunting them. He scavenged more parts, improvising defenses, electrified scraps, traps made from hanging metal beams, a weak but functional alarm system. It wasn't much, but he had to try. Every action now had consequences. A single mistake could mean death for both him and the hatchling. The hatchling chirped again, and for a brief moment Rylan saw something in its eyes, a spark of recognition, maybe hope. That tiny flicker of trust gave him courage. He couldn't fail. He wouldn't fail. Then a sudden shriek tore through the air. Another drone, larger, faster, more aggressive than the first, hurtled toward the workshop. Rylan barely had time to push the hatchling behind a pile of scrap. Sparks flew as metal collided. The hatchling's glow flared bright, almost as if it were screaming in fear. Rylan felt his chest tighten. He couldn't let it get captured, not now, not ever. He grabbed a wrench and leapt toward the incoming drone, swinging with all his strength. The drone skidded off course, crashing into a stack of crates, sending a shower of sparks into the dim light. Rylan stumbled, breathless, heart hammering. The hatchling chirped softly, its glow flickering back to a steady pulse. For a moment, silence returned. The immediate threat was gone, but the feeling of being hunted didn't leave. Rylan looked at the tiny creature, its frail body trembling yet alive. A small victory, but a reminder that the stakes were only getting higher. He whispered almost to himself, "We're not safe yet, and whatever's out there isn't done." The hatchling chirped in agreement, or maybe warning. The glow in its scales pulsed brighter than before, as if echoing the unspoken danger creeping ever closer. Rylan's mind raced. He knew he had to prepare, to think, to act. Every second now was critical. And beyond the walls of the workshop, something enormous moved, silent and deliberate, drawn to the hatchling's light. The first sparks of hope had ignited, but they could burn out in an instant. Rylan stayed crouched behind a stack of metal panels, his hands still shaking from the last drone attack. The hatchling huddled against his chest, wings trembling, its glow pulsing faster with each movement of the scrapyard shadows. The workshop felt fragile, like a thin shell barely holding them safe from the outside world. But Rylan's mind was sharp. Every second wasted could be the last. He needed information. He needed a plan. He glanced at the hatchling, its glowing eyes wide with curiosity and fear, and knew instinctively that it wasn't just a helpless creature. There was something more to it. Something he hadn't understood yet. Rylan sifted through piles of broken drones and abandoned circuits, looking for clues, anything that might explain why the hatchling's glow was so unusual. He found a small, cracked drone camera still functional. Plugging it into a portable scanner, he reviewed the footage. Sparks from destroyed engines flickered across the image, but then he froze. A strange pattern appeared on the scrap piles, almost like marks burned into the metal, faintly glowing themselves. They weren't random. Someone, or something, had left them. A whisper ran down his spine. These weren't just footprints. They were markers. And they led somewhere, toward the edge of the scrapyard beyond the colony's abandoned perimeter. He looked at the hatchling, which had stopped eating, tilting its head as if sensing the same thing. Its glow intensified, shadows of scales reflecting light like tiny stars. Rylan's hands tightened around a wrench. He realized the hatchling carried more than just hunger. It carried a signal, a key or a map of some sort, embedded in the strange energy coursing through its tiny body. Every instinct screamed that its presence here was no accident. He grabbed a tattered holographic interface from the workshop bench and began testing the hatchling's energy patterns. As he scanned, a faint holographic map flickered to life above the table. Alien symbols floated in the air, lines connecting points in a way that suggested a network. The hatchling chirped and wriggled, its glow reacting to each line, pulsing brighter when near certain points. Rylan's heart pounded. The colony authorities, the drones, the lurking shadows outside, they hadn't realized what they were after. This was bigger than just a stray dragon hatchling. Whatever energy lived in its scales could be used, exploited, or weaponized. And someone, or something, knew exactly where it had come from. The hatchling suddenly flinched violently, letting out a high-pitched shriek. Sparks from the workshop flickered as if the air itself had reacted. The small creature's wings twitched unnaturally, and a faint heat shimmered around it, warping the light in the room. Rylan blinked, astonished. The hatchling wasn't just glowing. It could manipulate energy, light and heat, reacting to danger instinctively. His mind raced. If the hatchling could control energy like this, it was more than just a creature to be hidden. It was powerful, unpredictable, and extremely vulnerable at the same time. Whoever had created or left it here had intended for someone like Rylan to find it, and now he was in the middle of a dangerous chain reaction he didn't fully understand. A low rumble shook the workshop floor. The hatchling chirped again, panicked, wings flaring, glowing brighter than ever. Rylan peered outside and froze. Shadows moved across the scrapyard, massive shapes that didn't belong to humans, gliding just beyond the reach of flickering lights. He couldn't see clearly, but the claw marks he had noticed before led straight to them. The creatures were tracking the hatchling. He acted without hesitation. Using a tangle of scrap wiring, he crafted a makeshift energy shield, directing the hatchling's glow to amplify the effect. The light flashed and shimmered, creating a temporary barrier that made the predators hesitate. Sparks flew as metal collided, the air thick with tension. For a brief, perfect moment, Rylan realized he could manipulate this situation, using his wits and the hatchling's abilities together. He whispered to the hatchling, "We're not just running. We're fighting smart." The hatchling chirped in response as if acknowledging the plan. Its tiny body pulsed with energy, brightening the workshop just enough to reveal an old, half-buried drone with a functioning propulsion unit. Rylan's eyes lit up. He could use it to lure the predators away, buying them time. Working quickly, he rigged the drone to project a decoy energy signature mimicking the hatchling's glow. The larger shadows outside moved closer, drawn to the signal. Rylan held the hatchling tightly, heart hammering, and watched as the predators lunged at the decoy, tearing into the metal drone with ferocity. Sparks flew everywhere, lighting the scrapyard in a dazzling, terrifying glow. Rylan's chest heaved. The immediate danger was deflected, but the predators weren't gone. They were smarter, faster, and still hunting. He had seen just enough to know this fight had only begun. The hatchling wriggled, its glow dimming slightly as it exhausted energy in the display. Rylan patted its head gently. "Rest now, we'll need all your strength." He crouched over the holographic map again, tracing the lines connecting the points the hatchling had reacted to. Each point pulsed faintly as if alive, whispering secrets only the dragon could understand. Rylan realized something chilling. This hatchling was part of a network, a hidden system across the stars, and the energy it carried was rare, possibly dangerous, and highly sought after. His mind raced. If the colony authorities or scavengers discovered this, they would stop at nothing to capture the hatchling. And yet, leaving it here was impossible. Someone, or something, was guiding them, and the next step was beyond the scrapyard, beyond the colony, in the unknown stretches of abandoned space. The hatchling chirped again, urgent, almost pleading, wings twitching as its glow pulsed. Rylan understood. It was ready to move. And so was he. He lifted the hatchling carefully, packing what supplies he could, and glanced once more at the shadows still lurking in the distance. As he pushed open the workshop door, a sudden ripple of energy pulsed across the scrapyard. The shadows froze, drawn toward the hatchling's glow. Rylan's stomach dropped. Whatever came next wouldn't just be a hunt, it would be a revelation. The hatchling's secret was waking up, and there was no turning back. For a brief moment, the stars above the colony seemed to shimmer in recognition, as if the universe itself had noticed them. And then, a massive shape emerged from the darkness, moving faster than any human could run. Rylan's heart froze. The hunt was over, but the real challenge was just beginning. Rylan's breath came in sharp, ragged gasps as he pressed himself and the hatchling against the cold metal wall of the workshop. The massive shape gliding across the scrapyard wasn't human, wasn't drone. It was alive, and it was enormous. Its shadow stretched over stacks of rusted metal, a jagged silhouette moving with terrifying precision. The hatchling whimpered, wings flicking in panic, and its glow pulsed brighter, reacting to the predator's presence. Rylan's mind raced. He had no weapons capable of stopping a creature like this. But he had ingenuity. He had quick thinking. And he had the hatchling whose energy could do more than light up a room. He scanned the workshop, gathering scrap metal, broken hovercar parts, wires, and old drone circuits. Every piece of junk could become a weapon, a shield, a distraction. Time was running out. The predator moved closer. Sparks from broken engines reflected off its scaled hide, creating an almost hypnotic shimmer. Rylan could see its eyes now, brilliant, calculating, and fixated on the hatchling. One wrong move and both of them would be crushed or worse. He gritted his teeth and whispered to the hatchling, "We fight smart, not hard. Can you trust me?" The tiny dragon chirped sharply, wings twitching as if answering yes. He set up a series of traps across the workshop. Electrified scrap metal connected by frayed wires, hanging pieces of heavy machinery poised to swing at the right moment, a weak magnetic pulse rigged to destabilize anything with metal implants. It was improvised, messy, and dangerous, but it was all he had. The hatchling crouched low, glowing faintly, ready to respond to his cues. The predator lunged, massive claws scraping sparks off the concrete floor. Rylan dodged, swinging a loose metal beam to knock it off balance. The hatchling chirped, releasing a flash of heat that flared across the predator's scales, startling it. Sparks erupted from the contact, throwing both of them back slightly. Rylan felt a sting on his arm but ignored it. Every second counted. He maneuvered around the workshop like a shadow, guiding the hatchling toward the traps. The predator advanced, massive and relentless. Rylan's pulse raced, but his mind stayed razor-sharp. He flicked a switch and one of the magnetic pulses shot out, sending a nearby metal shelf crashing down in a shower of sparks. The predator roared, halting for a fraction of a second, the first real advantage Rylan had. The hatchling chirped again, this time with urgency. Its wings spread wide, glowing brighter than ever. Rylan realized it was drawing energy from its surroundings, manipulating light and heat more than he had seen before. Sparks swirled around them as the hatchling unleashed a small pulse, momentarily blinding the predator. Rylan leapt, wrench in hand, knocking a heavy panel into the creature's path. It stumbled, caught in a tangle of wires and scrap metal. The workshop was chaos. Sparks flew, alarms from broken drones screeched, and the air vibrated with energy. Rylan and the hatchling moved in perfect coordination. Him with human ingenuity, it with alien power. Each trap they triggered created another advantage, buying precious seconds. Every small victory reinforced a bond between them stronger than words. But then, just as Rylan thought they might gain control, a loud crash made the floor tremble. The predator recovered faster than expected and slammed a heavy crate toward them. Rylan dove, shielding the hatchling with his body. Pain shot through his shoulder, but he couldn't stop now. The hatchling chirped sharply, releasing a flash of heat that forced the predator back. It was using its small body to protect him, and he had to return the favor. Rylan scrambled to the top of a stack of scrap, scanning for leverage. He spotted an old, damaged hover platform above the predator, its magnetic clamps still functional. A risky plan formed instantly. He grabbed a heavy beam, wedging it to act as a makeshift trigger. The hatchling pulsed its glow in response, almost like it understood exactly what he intended. The predator lunged at them again, claws snapping. Rylan pushed the beam at the exact moment, and the hover platform fell, clanging onto the predator. Sparks and energy flares exploded around it. The predator roared, staggering, blinded by the hatchling's pulsing glow. Rylan took a deep breath and shouted, "Now! Move!" They darted toward the far corner of the workshop, where Rylan had rigged a secondary magnetic trap. The predator staggered behind them, still furious but slowed by their improvised defenses. The hatchling released another burst of energy, shimmering heat and light, blinding the creature long enough for them to escape through a narrow side exit. Outside, the scrapyard stretched under the dim colony sky. The predator hesitated at the doorway, towering immense, but Rylan and the hatchling were gone, melted into the shadows of nearby wreckage. Sparks from the destroyed drones and metal traps flickered across the ground. The hatchling chirped softly, exhausted, curling against Rylan's chest. Rylan's shoulder throbbed, blood seeping through his shirt, but he ignored it. He held the hatchling close, feeling the warmth of its tiny body, the faint pulse of energy in its glowing scales. They had survived, but he knew this was only temporary. Whatever had tracked the hatchling wasn't human, and it wasn't done. He took a deep breath, scanning the horizon. Beyond the colony's edge, the stars were alive with possibilities, dangers, and mysteries. The hatchling's glow flickered again, almost like a heartbeat. Rylan understood. This was no ordinary creature. It was part of something larger, something hidden across the stars, waiting to be discovered, or hunted. As they moved cautiously into the shadows, Rylan whispered, "We're not done yet, and I have a feeling what comes next will be even worse." The hatchling chirped, wings twitching, glowing brighter as if answering him. Then a deep, resonating rumble shook the ground. From the far side of the scrapyard, the massive shadow moved again. Not one but two enormous shapes now emerged from the darkness, each bigger and faster than the predator they had just escaped. Rylan's eyes widened. The hunt wasn't over, it had just escalated. The hatchling chirped frantically, its glow flaring, and Rylan gritted his teeth. He tightened his grip on it and ran toward the edge of the scrapyard, mind racing for what traps or clever maneuvers he could use next. Sparks from broken machines lit their path, shadows twisting with every movement. Whatever was coming, he knew this. His courage, his skill, and the bond with the hatchling were the only things standing between life and complete destruction. And beyond the scrapyard, the unknown waited, vast, dangerous, and irresistible. The chase had only just begun. Rylan's legs burned as he sprinted through the scrapyard, clutching the hatchling tightly against his chest. Sparks and shadows danced around them as the two enormous predators circled closer, their massive claws scraping across metal and concrete. The hatchling's glow pulsed wildly, brightening and dimming in quick bursts, as if warning Rylan of every movement, every approach. He leaned low, dodging falling scraps and debris, calculating his next move with a precision born of necessity. He ducked into a narrow tunnel between rusted hover cars, the predator's enormous shadows stretching across the walls behind him. The hatchling chirped nervously, wings trembling, but there was trust in its eyes. It had chosen him just as he had chosen it. Ryland's mind raced, recalling every makeshift trap, every improvised strategy that had kept them alive so far. He couldn't rely on luck anymore. He needed a plan that would end this chase once and for all. Ahead, he spotted the half-buried remains of an old cargo drone, its propulsion unit still intact but barely functioning. A dangerous idea formed in his mind. He could lure the predators onto it, use the hatchling's energy to amplify the signal, and send them crashing into the scrapyard scrap piles. It was risky, and he knew a single misstep could mean death for both of them. But there was no alternative. "Stay with me," he whispered to the hatchling, whose tiny body pressed against his chest. Its glow flared brightly in response, as if agreeing. Ryland adjusted the hatchling's position, making sure its energy pulses would reach the drone's sensors. Sparks from nearby broken circuits crackled, filling the air with tension. He knew the predators were watching, calculating, and ready to strike. The first predator lunged. Ryland jumped to the side, narrowly avoiding the crushing weight of its claws. The hatchling chirped sharply, releasing a wave of heat that forced the creature to recoil. Ryland shoved the hatchling toward the drone and hit the activation switch. The old drone whirred to life, its sensors picking up the hatchling's energy pulses. It hovered just above the ground, a makeshift beacon. The predators froze for a heartbeat, drawn to the glowing signal. Ryland's heart pounded as he realized the plan might actually work. With a deep breath, he sprinted toward a stack of scrap metal, swinging loose beams and wires to create a narrow path. The first predator followed the drone, claws swiping, sparks flying as it tore through the metal. The second predator hesitated, confused by the sudden movement of the glowing drone, giving Ryland a precious few seconds to maneuver. He pushed the hatchling low, murmuring, "Almost there, just a little further." The tiny dragon's wings twitched, its glow flaring as if feeding on Ryland's determination. The first predator lunged at the drone again, triggering a weak magnetic trap Ryland had rigged. The force sent the creature sprawling into a pile of scrap, metal clanging and sparks exploding around it. The second predator hesitated, caught off guard by the noise and light. Ryland grabbed the hatchling and sprinted toward a concealed exit at the edge of the scrapyard. Its tiny body was warm against his chest, energy pulses vibrating with life. The predators were momentarily distracted by the debris and the drone, but Ryland knew they wouldn't give up easily. He needed more than a distraction. He needed a way to guarantee survival. At the tunnel's mouth, he found an old, abandoned hover platform, large enough to lift both him and the hatchling. Sparks from exposed wires illuminated the controls. Ryland didn't hesitate. He slammed his weight down on the platform, activating the propulsion system. The platform lifted off with a groan, sending a pulse of energy through the hatchling's scales. Its glow flared, interacting with the machinery and creating a blinding light that stunned the predators. The predators roared, claws swiping at empty air, but Ryland and the hatchling ascended. Sparks flew from the scrapyard below, illuminating the chaos of their escape. The hatchling chirped in what sounded like delight, wings twitching as if celebrating their narrow victory. Ryland's chest heaved with exhaustion and relief. He had protected the hatchling. He had survived. Once they were a safe distance away, Ryland set the hover platform down on a ridge overlooking the colony. The hatchling nestled against him, tiny wings twitching as it caught its breath. Its glow dimmed to a soft, steady pulse. Ryland smiled faintly, brushing a hand over its small, fragile head. "You're safe," he said softly. "At least for now." He studied the holographic map the hatchling had revealed earlier. Points of light connected across distant, abandoned sectors of space. Each point pulsed faintly, almost alive. The hatchling's energy had unlocked something much larger, a hidden network scattered across the stars, and he realized their adventure had only begun. Whoever had created or left this creature had designed a mystery far bigger than anyone in the colony could imagine. Ryland took a deep breath. He looked at the hatchling, its tiny body glowing faintly in the dim light of distant stars. "We'll figure it out," he whispered. "Whatever is out there, we'll face it together." The hatchling chirped, a soft, trusting sound that filled Ryland with determination. He felt something stir inside him, a sense of purpose, of responsibility, and of courage beyond fear. Suddenly, a faint energy ripple passed through the hatchling's scales, and the glow brightened for a moment, pointing toward one of the distant points on the holographic map. Ryland's eyes widened. There was more to discover. More to protect. More dangers, and wonders, waiting beyond the stars. He glanced back at the colony, lights flickering, drones scanning, shadows moving. The predators weren't gone, they were still out there waiting. But Rylan was ready. He had courage, intelligence, and a bond with the hatchling that no threat could break. "Hold on," he murmured. "This is just the beginning." The hatchling chirped sharply, wings twitching as if agreeing. Its glow flared one last time, brighter than ever, casting long shadows over the ridge and reflecting in Rylan's determined eyes. Beyond the horizon, the stars shimmered with secrets, waiting for humans brave enough to face them. And Rylan Voss, a mechanic from a forgotten colony, had just taken the first step into something far larger than himself. The adventure was far from over.